your copy, I guess.
Did you get?
Back, you want to go back on the record yet, or?
Is that my copy or his copy?
I thought that we did
I made 3.
3.
Is there,
Yeah, and we'll mark that. We'll mark
Is this-
that, and then I'll hand it back to you.
You can go ahead and look it up.
Okay.
Are we going to mark
Yeah.
it first or on the
Yeah,
record?
we'll go back on the record. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you would mark that as the next exhibit.
It's number 5.
Mr. Swenson, I'll hand you what's been marked exhibit number 5 to your deposition. Do you recognize that document?
Can you get a chance to review it?
Sure.
Go ahead and object to the extent that any of the lines of questioning touch attorney work product or attorney-client privilege in the formulation of the answer.
I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to put that on.
Oh, okay. You have to speak louder from me.
I'm just mumbling to myself. Nothing I say is important. Nothing put on the record at this point.
I doubt that.
yes, I recognize it.
And I take it that's the answer. It says answer of defendant Charles S. Swenson.
Right.
And what we were talking about before we went on break on page number 8.
Okay,
You've got listed as 8th offense,
okay.
and I believe my question that I asked you was how you came to that conclusion.
Going to renew my objection.
I guess I'm confused with the whole thing because I never made a determination that he was never insured under any policy issued by Midwest.
Okay. What about, I guess, the first sentence that the plaintiff and the insured provided inaccurate information regarding the health and criminal history of the insured on the application?
Going to renew my objection again.
I would have no way of knowing if they provided inaccurate information.
And so as we sit here today, you don't know whether they did or not.
I don't.
Okay, do you know why that was put in your answer?
No, I don't.
Going to object to the whole line of questioning.
I hand you another document.
What is that document? Discovery responses?
Yeah,
From you or me?
from us, from Swenson.
Okay,
Can you identify that document?
yes.
What is it?
It's answers to the interrogatories.
And those, I guess, were signed by you, those are your answers
Yes,
to plaintiffs' interrogatories?
correct.
Okay, let's mark that as the next exhibit. Hand that back to you. And if you would flip to interrogatory number 2,
Okay,
and that question basically asks if you established a file when you received the premium tendered by Delaney and Nichols. And I think your testimony earlier was you never really, I guess, kept files on your applications.
correct.
And I know you indicated that you worked with another person or another agency where y'all would meet every Friday.
Well, that was with McGahee and Associates.
Okay. Do you know if they ever maintained files on these applications?
To my knowledge, no.
One thing that's not in your answer, which we marked and we were looking at earlier, there's been no allegation by you that there are any other parties to this lawsuit or any other persons that are involved in this dispute. And does that remain to this day? You think that there's anybody else that should be named as a defendant?
Objection. It calls for a legal conclusion.
I guess I don't understand what you're asking me.
As far as the claims that are at issue,
Correct.
and anyone else potentially being at fault or being involved in this entire dispute, you agree that there's no other persons other than the plaintiff, the owner of the policy, the beneficiary of the policy, the agent, and the insurance company,
Correct.
and there's no one else that's.
Not that I'm aware of.
And so specifically this McGehee,
No.
you're not contending that they should be involved in this
No,
lawsuit?
not at all.
Interrogatory number 3, if you would you read that interrogatory?
Do you admit that Antonio Nichols' application represented that within the past 5 years he had not had 3 or more moving violations or had his license suspended or revoked, and that within the past 5 years he had not been convicted of or awaiting trial for reckless driving, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or a felony, or been on probation, was not included in the application for insurance submitted to Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee?
And I know that we've gone over the application and would ask you, do you agree that that's what was represented on the application?
Objection. Vague.
And if that is vague, Mr. Swenson, I'll be happy to clarify it, or if you want.
Well, basically, where's the application? Basically, on that one, I asked Delaney, answering for Antonio, within the past 5 years, have you had 3 or more moving violations or had your license suspended or revoked? I would have looked up at her to get an answer, and she said no, and I marked no. And then I asked the B, have you been convicted of or awaiting trial for reckless driving, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or a felony, or been on probation? Again, I would have looked at her. She said no, and I marked no. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you kind of clarified, you don't have any independent knowledge as to whether or not those answers that were submitted on the application are correct or not.
That's correct. I don't know.
You agree with me that if that information was incorrect, that would be a reason for the insurance company to deny coverage?
I don't know how the underwriters would look at it. I wouldn't have knowledge as to whether that would or wouldn't. All I can do is assume that if there's incorrect information on an application, that it may be grounds for not issuing a policy.
And I guess, how do you see your role in all of this? I guess procuring this application and asking these questions, exactly what is your role?
Well, my role, first off, was to secure a meeting with a proposed client. That was number one. That was my reason for out walk and talk, to come up with proposed insured. Second would be to meet with them and find out what they were looking for, explaining the policy, the application process and the policy as best I could, and then to secure accurate answers on the application, and to ask and answer each one of the questions on the application. From there, to secure the necessary signatures, secure the check for the initial month's premium, to assimilate all of it and get the information mailed to Midwest for them to make a decision.
Is it your understanding that a policy was written?
I don't know.
Is it your position that, I guess, you're procuring this application, that you did everything you were supposed to do?
That's correct.
What about the section where it has the whether or not it's monthly or bi-monthly or yearly?
Objection. Question.
One of those should have been marked.
So I guess now you want to change your answer. You agree with me that the application was not correctly filled out?
Object to the form.
I don't agree with that, no. I filled out everything that was there. I omitted to mark one box. I submitted with the application a check for $27.13 made out to Midwest National Life. I would have submitted a voided check along with bank information for a monthly bank draft, which would indicate to the insurance company that it would have been monthly bank draft. So I submitted everything else they would need in order to do a monthly bank draft.
So it's your position that it's not necessary for every question on the application to be filled out correctly?
It should
Objection
have,
form.
it should have been marked.
But it's your position that it should not have had any effect on the application or the issuance of the policy?
Object again. Form.
It should not, once they had all the information that they needed to get a monthly bank draft for future premium payments if a policy was issued.
Are you familiar with the term post-claim underwriting?
No.
Do you think it would have been reasonable for the insurance company to rescind this policy for one of those boxes not being checked?
No.
Objection speculation.
Are there any other sections of that application that you feel are not necessary, such as, I guess, the section that was not filled out?
Objection.
I didn't state that that was not necessary. And there's nothing in this application that is not necessary. They need all of the information on it. The only thing I stated is that in addition to the check for the first month's premium, I submitted information to them with bank information so that they could set up a draft for future premiums.
So therefore, they would assume that it had to have been a monthly bank draft because you submitted that other information along with it.
Correct.
Is there any other section of the application where it's reasonable for the underwriters to assume things based on other information contained in the application?
Objection form foundation.
No, no, because in most other instances on here, you've got to give them an amount of insurance, a premium, tell them what kind of policy it is, or answer yes or no to everything. And if you don't supply that information, the application is going to come back to you for you to get that information. The only part of it that could be assumed differently is the fact that I gave them all the information for a bank draft.
What about for driver's license number or driver's license?
I wrote in there none, which would tell them that when I asked that question, they said he doesn't have a driver's license.
So it's your understanding that by your writing none, that's telling the underwriters that this person does not have a driver's license?
Correct.
Had you ever filled out an application and for someone that did not have a driver's license?
I don't recall if there was ever another instance where that would be the case. I mean, with health policies, it's conceivable that a husband or a wife wouldn't have had a driver's license, one or the other would, or naturally that their children wouldn't have driver's licenses.
Or children under, I guess,
16.
16, 15 or 16?
Mhm.
At the bottom of the application, it's got, on the last page, a place for you to sign. And I guess, what's your title on the application?
There is no title. It says submit special replacement form if required. That's above it. No, there is no title. What's signature of agent? Okay.
Okay.
Agent.
And then I guess there's also an agent number.
Correct.
And is that a number that was issued by Midwest National Life Insurance Company?
Correct.
And you said before you couldn't work for any other insurance company while you were, I guess, working for Midwest. Is that
Correct.
right? Do you know how Antonio Nichols died?
No, I don't.
Do you have is the original cut, there's, part of it's kind of cut off. Is it just the copy machine, or, I mean, if the one you have is cut off too, that's,
Yeah, looks like the original that I got.
has that? I think I can make out what it says, but.
I'll hand you that document. Mr. Swenson, I know, or I'm going to assume, which I probably shouldn't do, that you've never seen that before. Is that correct?
That's correct. I haven't seen it.
Let's mark that. That's the next exhibit. I'm going to represent to you, Mr. Swenson, that this document we marked as exhibit
7.
number 7. And it's bait stamped at the bottom, M.W. Nichols 0026.
Correct.
It's a copy of a file memo that was produced by Midwest National Life Insurance as being a part of their claims file for this particular life insurance policy. And it's got the policy number and the insured's name, Antonio Nichols, at the top. It's dated July the 3rd of 06. And it's handwritten. The file memo, I guess, someone in the claims department. It says, I guess the first sentence is, Antonio Nichols did not, and not is underlined, answer the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next line, it says, the owner answered. And I guess, is it your testimony that that is appropriate in the life insurance context of procuring policies?
Objection form.
Join.
Can you answer?
I believe you did, Mr. Swenson. Did you answer?
Ask the question again, so I'm sure I'm answering it properly.
Okay. Is it your position that having the owner answer these questions on behalf of the insured is okay in procuring a policy?
Yes.
Same objection.
And it's your position that it's not necessary for the insured to be present when the application is taken?
Yes.
If you look down, I guess, the last paragraph, and as your attorney pointed out, it looks like the beginning of it is cut off, but what it looks like to me is that it says, advised her we will refer agent for review. However, since Antonio was not present when the app was taken, policy would still be null and void. Now, is that your understanding, that this policy would have been null and void?
Objective form.
Join.
What I'm reading is, advised her we will refer agent for review. However, since Antonio was not present when app was taken, policy would still be null and void. He did sign it, and by doing that, he represented that the answers were true and complete. To me, that's not stating that it was rescinded, as you say, because he wasn't there.
Okay, so that first sentence, basically where they're saying that since he was not present, the policy would still be null and void?
Mm-hmm.
You don't agree with that? You think that the policy should still be effective even though the insured was not present? When the
I don't think
application
that,
was
I don't think that's what it's saying. However, since Antonio was not present when app was taken, policy would still be null and void. Then it goes on to say,
Right, but it's period, and then there's another sentence.
right?
Okay,
And what I'm saying is the policy was null and void, and the fact of whether he was there or not doesn't change the fact that it's null and void. It's not stating that because he wasn't there, it's null and void.
okay.
Then it goes on to say that he did sign it, and by doing that, he represented that the answers were true and complete. The reason, the way I'm reading that, the reason it was null and void is because the answers were not true.
Okay. So that's the way you take it?
Yes,
Okay. And that it was not null and void because he was not present?
that's correct.
Do you know why the word not, N-O-T, was underlined in that paragraph?
Objection.
I do not know. Nor do I know who underlined it.
Did you know how much Antonio Nichols weighed on the date the application was taken?
All I have is the information that Delania gave me that he weighed 160 pounds.
And why is that important, what the weight of the insured?
Because the height and weight is going to determine if someone is underweight or overweight or obese.
And how would that affect a policy for life insurance?
It could do a couple of things. One, it could cause it to be rated up, or two, it could cause it to be declined.
So you agree that that's an important piece of information to be on the application?
Yes, it is.
Now, in reading the complaint and also your answer, I guess you understand that this policy was rescinded.
At this point, I do, yes.
And based on your answer, I guess it's because of the answers to Part A regarding driving,
Object to form.
Object to the
or I guess regarding moving violations.
Object to the form.
I don't know for a fact that that's why it was rescinded, no.
Mr. Swenson, I just handed you another document. It's Bates stamped at the bottom, M.W. Nichols 0037,
Right?
and it goes through the last Bates number is M.W. Nichols 0052.
No. Go 0049.
Make sure I didn't hand you-
Pardon?
Let me see that back page real quick. Make sure I didn't hand you something I was looking at. No, that's it.
Okay. Right, I guess.
39, 40, let me look through it, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, no, 0049 is the last thing I've got.
Right, and 50 through 52 is the actual application, which we've already marked as an exhibit.
No, that's not,
Oh,
not the number.
here you go. I thought that was the application I was looking at. There you go.
Okay, 50, 51, 52, okay. All right,
Do you recognize that document?
no,
Let's mark that as the next exhibit. Did you ever see the life insurance policies after they were written?
no,
Have you ever seen a life insurance policy before?
yes, my own,
That first page, I guess page number 37, at the bottom, it describes the document, flexible premium adjustable endowment at age 95 life insurance policy.
right?
And I guess do you know, is this the insurance policy that was issued?
Objection. Ask and answer.
I don't know.
On the next page, it's page number 38,
Right,
and it's got at the top policy schedule, and then it has premium amounts,
right,
and then it has a schedule of premiums where it says preferred non-tobacco use.
where are you? I don't see that.
This is page 38.
I'm on 38, but I don't see anything about tobacco. Oh, there it is, preferred non-tobacco use, okay,
And then it has the initial premium, $168.50.
correct?
And that's the amount, I guess, that you quoted on the application itself. Is that correct?
No,
Okay, what did you quote on the application itself?
2713 monthly,
Okay, which I guess that's the next thing. It's got 2713 monthly on.
correct, on the application.
Okay. And so it's your testimony, you didn't, I guess, provide that information, the $168.50, to the insurance company.
That's correct.
Do you have any idea where that figure came from?
Jag form.
Well, where it would have come from is adding up the flexible premium adjustable endow at 95 for 127, accelerated benefit terminal illness 0, accidental death and dismemberment benefit $50,000 4150, and if you add 127 and 4150, it comes out to 168.50.
And are those the figures that would have been on your computer, I guess, the rates for a non-tobacco user?
I don't believe so. I think all that would have been on the computer is 2713. It may have been there, but it wouldn't have been something that I would have paid attention to. Unless they were going to pay annually. Then I would pay attention to that figure.
Okay. And then it's got on here, I guess, towards the bottom, it's got a maturity date, May 28th, 2077.
Right?
And what is that? What's the maturity date?
Object to the form.
that would be when the policy matures and that would be when he turned 95. And at that point, the policy would have matured. And I am not positive, but I think the policy would have ended at that point.
Is it your understanding that the application that you take becomes a part of the policy when it is issued?
Yes.
But I guess it's your testimony that you never actually saw these policies themselves once they were issued.
That's
Asked and
correct.
answered.
Had you ever seen any forms or samples of policies
No,
while you were working?
no.
So when it came to, I guess, issuing a policy, you didn't have to countersign it in any way?
No,
The only signature was your signature on the application itself?
that's correct.
In your experience with life insurance policies, I guess, is it routine for the policy to have a definitions page?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Yes.
Have you ever had a proposed insured or an owner of a life policy ask you to explain the definitions in the policy?
I never delivered a
Objection,
policy,
asked
so they wouldn't have been able to ask me that.
Did you contact Midwest in any way after you received the complaint and summons in this case?
Yes.
And tell me, I mean, who did you contact?
I don't recall now who I contacted. I was given a name of a person that I should contact. I called that individual to explain I had gotten the summons on it. I needed to find out if they would provide legal representation for me.
And who was this person? Do you remember their name?
I don't.
It was someone at Midwest National?
Mhm.
And I guess, what did they tell you?
Normally, no, they do not.
Okay.
And I asked, was there any recourse I had? Because there was no way I could afford an attorney. And they said that normally they did not pay for legal counsel for an agent, and the reason they didn't is because usually when there was a problem, it was because something the agent did wrong. She said, "I've reviewed your application, it looks okay to me. I'll send it to the executive committee and let them look at it." They came back to me and she said, "The executive committee has looked at it. They have determined that you did absolutely nothing wrong. Therefore, they're going to pay for legal counsel."
And so, I guess Midwest then told you they would hire you a lawyer
Correct?
for this. I know we marked that letter that was addressed to you with the agent's questionnaire attached to it, and we've got that marked as an exhibit, and it's floating around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Exhibit 2. No.
Yes. Have you received any other documentation from Midwest?
No. I didn't receive this either.
Correct, I understand that.
Okay.
I guess when you talked with this person at Midwest after you got served with a complaint, they told you that normally they don't provide legal representation,
Correct.
and that was, I guess, because normally they told you the agent was the one that did something wrong?
Correct.
Do you understand why there would be a difference?
Objection on the form.
The only thing I can surmise from it is that if the agent did something wrong in submitting the application, that would cause the lawsuit being filed against the insurance company.
As we sit here today, your position is that you did nothing wrong in procuring this policy,
That's correct.
and that everything was filled out properly and done the way it should have been done?
Objection on the
Was.
form.
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
Form.
No, no, answer.
Yeah, it was.
Let's take a quick break. I think I'm almost done. We'll go off the record. It's 12:15 Eastern.